Good morning. So, yesterday and today I read the book of Ecclesiastes, and I've read the book of Ecclesiastes before, but I never really understood it. And I'd shared about it in a Bible study I led on Monday, and I thought it was more of one of the poetry books, and I guess I never really paid attention. I watched the Bible Project video on Ecclesiastes, and I'm doing the Bible recap, so I got some pieces from that, and I was really curious about it. So I dug a little bit deeper, and I thought it was interesting that the word Ecclesiastes, uh, translated out of Hebrew, is a word that I can't pronounce, but it literally translates to one who holds and addresses an assembly or a preacher. So it's basically a sermon or possibly a series of sermons or teachings that were presented to people that somebody recorded. It may have been Solomon's teachings, it may have just been recorded in the style of Solomon. We don't really know for sure. But what we do know is that it is a sermon. And I never really thought about that before. And it's broken down into four parts. There's an introduction, which doesn't give us a lot of information. And then the speaker kind of drones on about how life is meaningless and that wisdom is useless, wealth is pointless, vanity and accomplishments mean nothing, inequity and uncertainty of hard work. Hard work doesn't always pay off. Um, some two people might work equally as hard, and one may have rewards and one doesn't. People's faith doesn't really pay off. Some people who have a lot of faith don't end up with much as far as worldly possessions, and others don't. But he kind of concludes that section of the sermon um, with this. So this is verse 225 of Ecclesiastes out of the ESV. Uh, I saw, this also I saw, is from the hand of God. For apart from him, who can eat or who can have enjoyment? For to the one who pleases him, God has given wisdom and knowledge and joy. So there's no point of any of it but to please God. And then he goes on to the next section, is just reflections. The preacher's reflecting on all sorts of categories, and the Ecclesiastes that's the most famous is this one because it was made into a song, um, which is Ecclesiastes 3, verses 1 through 8. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under the sun, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up. If you struggle with that, the Bible recap, Tara Lee Cobble, has some great insight into those verses. We're not going to get into that because she does a great job. A time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. You hear the song? A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to tear down and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. Anyways, so that is what I knew about Ecclesiastes, or at least that's what I retained. But I really like that the preacher goes on after there's other reflections and pulls it all together in his conclusion. And I'm going to read the conclusion out of the Message version of the Bible because it really makes it more understandable. Sometimes I like to read things out of different versions, but the message really, sometimes the language just, it hits home for me. And if you really look at it, it's fairly accurate. The words might not be exactly the same, but I appreciate it. So this is chapter 11, verses 7 through 10, and then the beginning of chapter 8. Oh, how sweet the light of day, and how wonderful to live in the sunshine. Even if you live a long time, don't take a single day for granted. Take delight in each light-filled hour, remembering that there will also be many dark days. And most of what comes your way is smoke. You can't grab smoke. It dissipates. That's my words. You who are young, make the most of your youth. Relish your youthful vigor. Follow the impulses of your heart. If something looks good to you, pursue it. But know also that not just anything goes. You have to answer to God for every bit of it. Live footloose and fancy free. You won't be young forever. It lasts about as long as smoke. Honor and enjoy your Creator while you are still young, before the years take their toll and the vigor wanes, before the wisdom dims and the world blurs, and the winter years keep you close to the fire. In old age, your body no longer serves you well. Muscles slacken, grip weakens, joints stiffen. The shades are pulled down on the world. You can't come and go at will. Things grind to a halt. The hum of the household fades away. You are awakened. You are wakened now by bird song. Hikes to the mountains are a thing of the past. Even a stroll down the road has its terrors, and your hair turns apple blossom white, adorning a fragile and impotent matchstick body. Yes, you're on your way to eternal rest, while your friends make plans for your funeral. Life, lovely while it lasts, is soon over. Life as we know it is precious, and beautiful ends. The body is put back into the same ground it came from. The spirit returns to God, who first breathed it. It's all smoke, nothing but smoke. I think that's so true. I mean, they say that youth is wasted on the young, and it's true. I've recently been in church with a whole lot of young people, and it's been a long time since I've been with that many young people, and it has just filled my soul. It really has, being with them, with their worship and their vigor, and their joy, and the problems that they're struggling with are so different than the ones of the old. And as I'm kind of, in the middle of my life, I see things a little bit differently. I'm still able to do most things, but I can tell that it's getting harder. And it's really interesting that this is what the preacher says, um, about being young, and so that kind of really struck me. I didn't know that was in the Bible. Um, and then, uh, in the conclusion of the conclusion, um, the preacher wraps it all up, as most good preachers do. And this back in the ESV, chapter 12, verses 13. The end of the matter, all has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. To fear God, don't be afraid of God. That's to have respect for God and keep his commandments. And his commandments aren't there to be rules or to be punishment. They're there to give you freedom, because freedom exists within those parameters. When you bring a kid to the park and they get out of the car, and if you sat in the car and they don't know the lay of the land, they're going to be watching over their shoulder. They're going to be afraid. They're not going to know where they should be and what they really should be doing, especially if it's the first time there. But if you get out of the car and you go, this is the playground, please stay on the mulchy area, and if you go anywhere else, let me know. Um, that same child's going to run with abandon. They're going to play hard, and they're not worried because they know that you have given them a safe perimeter, a safe place to play, and that you're there with them. That's what God is. That's what keeping his commands are. It is God giving us a perimeter, a safe, within these boundaries, run free, have fun, live life. There's a short list of things. Just don't do that, and you'll have peace. I mean, not to say that bad things won't happen, but you'll have peace when they do, and you'll have comfort. Because even that kid on the playground may fall and skin their knee, or another kid might be unkind to them, but they know that their parent is there for us, just like we know that God is there for us. So those are my thoughts. Everything has a time. That enjoy your youth, treasure those times of youthfulness, pursue things. Oh, I know what I forgot to say. So the biggest regret most people in their 90s have is not taking the risk, whatever that risk is, making the move, starting the business, pursuing somebody they cared about, whatever. That they look back 50 years and that's what they would have done differently. They would have taken the risk. So it says right there in scripture to pursue it. Remember that there are consequences, and there may be, it may or may not work. God doesn't promise that if we start a business it's going to be successful, or if we move to the other side of the country or the world that it's going to work out perfectly. But he does say do it when you're young, because he knows you can't when you're old. It's harder to pick up and move. And then at the end of the day, fear God and keep his commandments. And when you Google the Book of Ecclesiastes, it's followed by, why is the book so depressing? Why is it boring? What does it mean? Most people, it seems, think of negative connotations, and there are a lot of negative, connotations. But really, the preacher is saying all of this stuff on earth doesn't mean anything. This is what matters. This is what matters. Have fear God, or have appropriate respect for God, and keep his commandments. That's it. That's the point. That's the point of it all. So those are my thoughts for today. I hope you read the Book of Ecclesiastes. It's only 12 chapters. It should take you 15 minutes or less to read. And reading it in a couple of different versions might help you understand it more. So, I'll see you next time. Bye.